One day. Okay, let's get started. So I'm not sure what the agenda should be today, but maybe I'll just give a quick update on what's been happening in the past 7 days. Unfortunately, Master hasn't opened for 4.6 yet, so we can't merge any of the MCO PRs. And well, that's one thing. And on the installer side, Vadim and what's his name again? The CRC guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
Praveen.
Praveen, I think. So they've done a lot of work to enable, and also Charo and so many people have been working on getting the single node clusters ready. So that's awesome. I think we'll be there very soon. Yeah, and I don't really have any more big updates. Maybe Charo and Vadim can give a little bit more of a detailed update on the single node issue.
Yeah, sure. Some more news. First of all, Joseph has fixed the Azure installer, so there is a decent way to make it run. I didn't get a chance to do that actually yet, but eventually I'll have my Azure account and we'll give it a try, which is pretty cool. More stuff on single node. So me and Praveen have been working to rebase the
I think you cut out, Vadim, or is it just me?
and with that we would be able to run, so the CRC would probably be OKD based in the future releases. I also have a few
That's
patches
good.
for right. I also have a few patches for the installer to fix a few things in libvirt installer and automatically detect that we're running on a single node and eject a few manifests for etcd for ingress, and a patch to MCO to scale down the etcd quorum guard. So single node should be able to run without additional hacks. Charo has a great repo how to achieve that today, but it needs scaling down a few operators, and we're trying to avoid that. On a related note, I created a beta 5 release today, but it fails to update again, and I'm thinking it's an actual bug, so we will have to track it down. I think we won't be taking down the beta 5 due to that, because it's been quite a long time since previous beta, but we can discuss it today. Yeah, as Christian has mentioned, master benches are still locked to us, so we can't merge fixes and start working on 4.5 and 4.6. We'll use that time to improve 4.4 for now. Yeah, that's pretty much all I've got.
All right, great. Thanks, Vadim. Yeah, do we have anything else really to talk about? I'm looking through the board here, but yeah, none of this is really current, I think. K3S became a proposal to the CNCF. Yes, but K3S isn't real Kubernetes because there's no etcd. But yeah, sure.
Well, I mean, now we just have to come up with some cool, wacky name for OKD at that size. Like, yeah, I mean, we could easily just compile etcd inside and make it like not do raft consensus, which is essentially what K3S does. I just don't know what the hell is going on in K3S at all, because it's all of their other choices are stupid too. But, whatever.
Could replace an etcd operator with our custom SQLite operator. and have a similar thing just like K3S. The point is, well, why?
No, there's no point to it because, well, actually, there is a point. Like the main reason to switch to SQLite was to get rid of RAF consensus. That's it. And also because SQLite's written in C, it's actually way smaller at runtime. Like Go is fat. That's pretty much the meat and potatoes of it. And cutting the Go fat makes it small enough to fit on a Raspberry Pi.
Because everybody wants to run Kubernetes on a mobile phone, right?
Oh my fucking god, no. Please. No.
I wouldn't mind, but I have quite a few spare. But the point is joining them in the cluster. And another point is having what's the use of it? Which containers can I run there? Barely
Well, it bundles
anything.
container D in there too. So like clearly we're just going full on for stupid.
But what's the payload?
Right.
You barely can find ARM7 base images. Maybe some Alpine nonsense. Although
I think there's even Helm charts for stuff like home assistant things. So you can automate your home with a little Raspberry Pi cluster.
well, okay, that would work. But ARM64 sounds better because we probably would have Fedora CoreOS built on that. We can use Fedora containers, which brings us to the idea of reusing Fedora build containers as image streams. That's definitely
Yeah,
short-term.
we should definitely tackle that sometime.
Yeah, are you talking about like a Fedora-based version of the UBI?
Yeah, basically like that. We could inject a few image streams right in the default OKD installation and have them based on Fedora. That would be useful.
Absolutely. Yeah, because at least right now, one of the things you have to do is remove the samples operator, since it can't actually get to the images that it's trying to pull.
Yeah, that's a long-standing problem. There is like at least 3 wrong ways how to fix that. And the
I
most
found probably
correct
two.
The most correct one is actually making samples operator detect that it's an OKD system, and there is no redhat.io in the pull secret and inject CentOS stuff. But we
Yeah.
cannot
Yeah,
start
but,
with that because it's an enhancement for OKD official one, so we cannot officially push people to merge that.
And I
yeah,
want to stay as far away from anything involving CentOS as possible.
I mean, yeah, maybe CentOS would be not too bad of a solution for this, though, because I think in the medium term we'll also have a CentOS stream-based OKD.
No. I want to personally say this. I don't want that to exist for as long as possible.
Well,
because
we've been pretty clear we're focusing on Fedora, and we're not going to focus on that. But if we chose Fedora images for all the containers or all the operators on Operator Hub, we would still need CentOS-based containers for the CentOS version, while we can use CentOS containers on FCOS-based OKD.
right.
But yeah, I mean, I'd be totally fine with just having Fedora containers and push Fedora everywhere.
Because I just don't want to see a repeat of what happened with OpenShift 3, a repeat what happened with OpenStack. I just don't want to see all the oxygen just completely sucked out again and again and again. So, like,
Yeah,
that's why I'm
absolutely
heavily
agree.
resistant to it.
And I do think we should probably split the Operator Hub thing into a second enhancement proposal, Vadim, because the OKD enhancement proposal right now is more, well, the one that I still haven't published is really focused on just getting the core operators merged and the FCOS branches forks sort of to get rid of those and to be able to just use one operator, one build of the operators for both OKD and OCP.
Mhm.
And the operator hub is sort of, it's a little bit external to the core OKD, even though, of course, it's part of the experience, definitely.
We don't have to mention every single change. We will do that in the enhancement.
Just slip
We
everything
just have
through.
to. You just have to have a feel that we just have to discuss how to detect that it's an OKD system, because we definitely want some customization. And
That's
once we
true.
settle on the way how to do that, be it a flag in the infrastructure or just detecting that you don't have access to redhat.io, once we settle on that, we can make patches to samples operator. We can do patches to installer and inject custom content and so on. We don't need a full-blown enhancement for that. At least I really hope that we don't need to do that.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of overhead for not a lot of gain.
It's just way too many discussion in enhancement. These take like months to get merged, and it's not clear if we can start working on that or we have to wait until every single detail is settled. I would definitely choose the former, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think the way I want to approach it with the first enhancement is just, have the code ready, already, sort of ready to go, and then just need it merged. That's at least what, we're planning on doing in the 4.6 timeframe, which is coming up with the MCO. The installer will have to wait a little longer probably, but even that we can maybe get all merged in 4.6. And even if not, we won't block on the installer to be merged with master for OKD to go GA. Because I think once we have sort of aligned all the operators, that's enough. The installer just runs once at installation time, and it's not that big of a deal to maintain that one fork for a little bit longer. All right. Are there any other questions, any other topics you want to discuss today? Yeah. I just saw Mike's question, is OKD still on track for a 4.6 GA? So yeah, I think we're still on track there, which, we might even be releasing in the 4.5 OCP timeframe, because we'll merge the FCOS MCO with master in the 4.6 development timeframe, which is way before the release. And then once we have sort of everything in one master, we can just backport the OKD specific things that are already in master to an FCOS 4.5 branch, and that would be good to go as GA. Because from 4.6 on, we would just have really one master branch and one release branch eventually to build off of. So I don't expect a lot of problems. I have a PR open that sort of adds dual support for Ignition spec v3 and spec v2. So there'll be a sort of a config knob in the controller config of the machine config controller to tell whether it should be rendering spec 2 or spec 3. So it'll support both, and the installer will just have to tell it in the beginning what to serve. That still doesn't solve the problem for OCP to migrate from v2 to v3, but it's already a framework. The only thing missing there is sort of the transition, the reconciliation between a system that has v2 on it and that's supposed to go to v3. But luckily for us, that's not a problem we'll have to deal with in OKD, because we are already on spec 3 and we'll just have an MCO that supports spec 3, and that'll be good enough. So I don't really expect a lot of problems on that side. Yeah, it's essentially, yeah, exactly that. The biggest tasks is getting MCO merged and then creating an installer fork for 4.5 that will need a few, where we just need to carry the OKD specific things that we haven't figured out how to merge yet. And even from them, like the pull secret stuff, disabling that, we will need to eventually find a way to get that into master as well. And if we decide on adding a build flag there, we may even be able to merge it in the 4.6 window there as well. But yeah, to be honest, I don't expect a lot of problems. It's really just we have to now align with the OCP releases, of course, so we can sort of get the 4.5 OCP GA and backport all the OKD patches to that and then release that as OKD GA 4.5. Do you agree, Vadim? Am I saying anything that's not true?
Well, you're saying correct things. The main point is we're independent of OCP release timeframes. We can have betas as soon as possible. We can have release tomorrow if you like broken upgrades and force it to our team.
Sure, why not?
Hey, I mean, sure. And everybody gets to
Right.
have fun that way, right?
We'll just
Yeah.
call it a release. Good enough, ship it.
Yep. The ship boat just sailed.
Right. So what we're targeting is to get things into master and have enhancement merge so that every single team in the Red Hat would be bound by that, and they would have to fix bugs for OKD as well.
Oh,
Um,
I kind of wish that was already true, but that's a little horrifying to know that that isn't.
I mean, that is exactly the goal
that is
we're
exactly
all doing this year, right?
De facto, that is true, but we cannot come to sample separator folks and make them merge PRs and put that into this.
I mean, you could just click the merge button, right? I mean, you're in the org.
No, it's a bot.
No.
We can't do
Oh.
anything like that. There has to be an
Well,
approved label and a looks good to me label on there, and then the bot merges it automatically.
Oh.
If all required tests pass, of course.
right, and
So your
and
infrastructure
also,
actually works then.
Oh yeah, well, it works.
speaking of broken infrastructure, we also need signing keys so
Oh,
that your upgrades won't have to be forced. So all of these problems are not related to OCP release timeframe, but approximately by 4.6 time, we would be confident enough, and we just can call it GA. That's pretty much what's the plan right now.
Yeah, and the one thing that we sort of are, how we are depending on OCP is, in the future we of course want to be able to deliver a stable system. So we don't want to release off of branches that haven't really been released, like the master branch, but instead we want to build off of release branches. So for each OCP release, each OCP release gets branched off of master. So we have like a release 4.2, release 4.3, and so on, branch for every release. And we want to be building off of these same release branches. And then when the next branching happens or the next release happens, we will transition with an update, of course, very quickly from the current onto the next branch, or from the previously current onto the new current branch. So we won't be maintaining many release branches side by side for OKD, always just one, and maybe, of course, that'll overlap a little bit, but we really want to have people upgrade quickly with OKD. Of course, if you're paying for the product, you can stay on 4.2 forever. That may not be true, but there's more longer support and security patches and everything gets backported a lot longer than we will be doing in OKD. We'll essentially do it like Fedora, where we have a maximum of one past release that is still sort of kept up to date.
Well, we still have nightlies which are built automatically, and there is nothing which can stop them from building. The issue is that they live just 48 hours, so if you mirror them very quickly, you would get a pretty much stable release. We don't test their upgrades, so you're on your own here. But the official for stable branch, yeah, it would be rolling definitely. We would switch to 4.5, 4.6 seamlessly. Unless we have any other ideas, but that's pretty much the goal right now. That's how it would be different from OCP, and we won't have to align with the timeframes if we want to roll out some new feature or bug fix.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll always have the builds off of the master branch, of course, and you'll be able to use them, and they'll be upstream to what's in the product right now. But for just the usual OKD user, we will sort of be building off of the same release branches. And yeah, Joseph, you asked whether OKD4 will never be real upstream. It's sort of a sibling stream. It's the same code base, but built for a different operating system, for a different base OS. And of course, it's OKD. There's no paid support. There's community support, which is what we've been doing here a little bit, and that will hopefully be thriving a little bit more once more people get to use it and actually can participate in helping each other out. But yeah, it's more of an unsupported OCP. Yeah, like Fedora. Well, yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's kind of like RHEL and Fedora, but different. I mean, the packages are also kept up to date, but the kernel isn't, and that's kind of the same. We'll have the same operators, and maybe built onto different container images, but they're essentially the same code. It's just the base operating system is a different one, has a different kernel, and yeah. And so of course, in OKD, it'll be the sort of the testing round for all kinds of new features we want to bring into OKD. So it may be that we'll build OKD with cgroups v2 enabled, or I'm pretty certain we will do that before that will land in OCP. But that should really be just a configuration thing and not really require any huge differences in code at that point.
It will eventually lead to differences in code initially, but the idea is that it would eventually propagate.
Yeah, exactly.
All of the cgroups v2 code would be in Kubernetes. So in 1.19, there are a few more fixes which need to land for the full support, and you will be able to run it in nested containers even. But yes, we'll definitely roll out the cgroup switch in OKD much sooner than it happens in OCP. Mostly because of the better kernel support.
Yeah, exactly. So I assume, or I expect that OCP will handle this transition much more conservatively than we will in OKD. So I think we will see cgroups v2 in OKD before we'll see it in OCP enabled, but it's not on the cluster side. It's more because the base operating system, maybe, which is Red Hat CoreOS, as opposed to Fedora CoreOS. A Red Hat CoreOS wouldn't maybe support it yet. Well, Fedora CoreOS theoretically already supports it.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, the funny thing is, I'm pretty sure that in that particular example, it'll be backwards. RHEL CoreOS will get to it first because Fedora CoreOS keeps turning it off because of OKD and Docker. So it's going to be interesting. I'm pretty sure Relcore OS will do it first in this particular circumstance because it doesn't have to care about anything else except for OKD or sorry OCP
Yeah.
or the OpenShift thingy.
Yeah, we're not really blocking cgroups v2 on OKD's behalf, but more on the Docker use case
Right.
In Fedora CoreOS.
Right.
Which I find very unfortunate that we sort of have to keep that. I've been pushing towards just focusing on
nice
the
tools.
Podman and kubelet use cases essentially. So the question whether OKD4 will be tested on all available platforms, yes, it will. I can't promise we'll do it for the nightlies, but certainly all the releases will have to pass on all platforms. At least that's what I expect. I'm not sure how a cgroups version mismatch between a container and a host, how that behaves, to be honest.
So it shouldn't be a problem if systemd in the child isn't instantiating its own cgroups, which I don't think in this case that it would. So the problem most likely is that systemd isn't handling being a deputy init very well inside of a container because it's not really PID1 and it has to, and there are certain things that has to happen for it to behave properly. So if you can, James, I would suggest filing a bug with Red Hat and file a support ticket because that really has to be fixed since Rel 8.2 now fully supports cgroups v2.
Yeah, I agree. Please do file an issue. And to tackle this from a different angle a little bit, really, and I've been sort of fighting for this in Fedora for some time, we should not include systemd in containers, I think.
So I will actually be the lone guy who says that we need a way to have systemd in containers because I work with a lot of PHP-based web applications, for example, and PHP has no good mechanism to be able to do all the same things that, for example, Python and Java and whatnot do. You inherently need a multi-service container to do the same thing you do with a single WSGI server thing in Python. That PHP requires you having Nginx or Apache and a fast CGI server of some kind connected to each other to do the right things. So there is a valuable reason to have it. Whether it is universally required is a different matter. But I personally, as part of my work, Datto does PHP web applications out of the wazoo. We're going to wind up, as we build out containers, we're going to heavily start relying on multi-service container stuff because, quite frankly, it's the only reasonable way to do this. I have personally explored the other architectures. It sucks. It really, really sucks for those types of apps. So, I agree with you. I think it'd be nice if we didn't need them, but the reality is that there's enough architectures out there that I and others have to deal with, and PHP is still 2/3 of the internet. It's just a reality. We need to have a proper way to do it. Otherwise, people will hack bad solutions together for everything else, and that's worse.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's definitely a huge use case for having that, and I think Red Hat was, we essentially enabled systemd in containers in the first place. For there's services like FreeIPA that it's and even just PHP, it's multiple services inside a container, and that's totally fine. I mean, I'm not a great fan of the Docker mantra to just have one process per container. That doesn't make sense to me. But sometimes, if you only really need one process, let's say you run, I don't know, an email server postfix or something. And you
That
just
already handles supervising properly enough for those kinds of things. And in that case, you don't need a service manager on top of the container supervisor.
yeah, exactly. And right now it's not really possible except you sort of create your own container from scratch. And even if you just install an RPM, it always pulls in systemd. And I mean, yeah, it's even though starting up the services inside the container without systemd is always kind of ugly. But yeah, that's a different discussion, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what I would personally like to see is that after we've started to get OKD4 out the door, that I would like to see us start maybe figuring out a way to build like some kind of ecosystem of where like Fedora containers and Fedora-based containers and language stacks and things like that, like help bring some bonds between the OKD people and the Fedora communities to make it so that like we can populate language stacks, operators, things like that. Like Fedora Infra's working on a Koji operator. Like, wouldn't that be nice to be an operator hub and something that people could just push, click, have in?
Definitely.
And so like, after we get OKD4 like out the door enough that people can like actively start using it, this is, I think, where we should go next with the working group. We should swiftly move to make it so that the Fedora community could be better enabled to leverage OKD for things, especially since there's a community OpenShift. Like, it'd be good to start like make Fedora a valuable part of our ecosystem.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly here. I really want to move the OpenShift and Fedora communities closer together because OpenShift hasn't been a prime example of how to encourage, a community to grow and to contribute because it just hasn't really been possible in the past. But yeah, with OKD4. I think we should really go in the direction that Fedora has gone and, just try to get people from Fedora over here and also try, of course, as I'm also from the Fedora community, of course, I'd like to encourage people from OKD to just go try out Fedora.
Right.
But yeah.
I want an avenue that doesn't involve what happened with RDO. Like, I want to completely avoid the end state of RDO, which is they advertise that they're about the Red Hat ecosystem, and they're not. And they're just about RHEL and CentOS, and there's no real strong community buy-in in the sense of like community contributions, active work and stuff by people that aren't just Red Hat employees working on the OpenStack team. Like, I want us to be way more successful than that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I want to be here to stay with OKD and not, disappear again in not used so much land. So, I mean, yeah. And that's why I don't want to focus on CentOS either. Fedora is the future, I think, for this and for OKD. So yeah.
So like I'm happy to see how things have been moving forward, and I know that the fact that OKD has been focusing on Fedora CoreOS and moving towards the future and being an expanded scope, it has certainly made OKD and also even OpenShift an easier thing to work with within from my perspective. So. We're doing the right things right now, and I hope we continue doing so.
Thanks, Neil. I'm glad you see it that way.
Yeah. Now we just need to be able to have people be able to play with it.
Yeah, I know. We'll get there. We'll get there.
I know.
You only need 32 gig of RAM now and 4 vCPUs, but you can do it.
Oh, good. Now I just need to buy a server because I don't have one at home.
So that means I can run it on my laptop now.
My laptop's not big enough.
I managed to run it on a single AWS instance with 16 gigs. 8 gigs is not enough. I think 12 should be fine, but
The
you
last
also
time I
need,
tried to run CRC, it completely fell over with the default configuration of making 8 gig VMs. I had to double it to make it so that it would stop failing.
I'm not.
So-
And
It's not
to
about
be fair,
CRC,
16
it's
gigabytes
about-
of RAM is what I've been using for the master node. You only need the other RAM while the bootstrap is running, and then you shut it down, and actually you can shut down the master VM at that point, edit its configuration to give it the RAM that the bootstrap had, and you've got a fully functional single node cluster.
You also don't really need a bootstrap VM. You can run it in a container with a few hacks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because all the bootstrap machine is for is to serve the ignition files for the other nodes. You could totally
Right.
It
cheese that.
also runs a full-blown kubelet, but
Yeah, but again, you can still cheese that too. Like you can cheese all the
Yeah.
things that it does.
so MCD supports a mode called once from, so it emulates a proper ignition parsing and applying files. We do that when we add RL7 node, and you can create a CentOS 8 container, run MCD inside of it, give it the bootstrap ignition, and that would become a full-blown bootstrap node. You just need connections. That would be a fun experiment to play with. I think I have some code pieces to do that, but your machine and the container and the masters all have to be in the same node, which is pretty tricky usually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll add a card to probably to the proposed agenda items and have and play with that.
Yeah, and adding to the chat, I think we'll have lots of interesting things to look at. Right now, we're really still in this phase of getting to GA and can't really say what we'll be focusing on after this. But yeah, it won't get boring. There's C groups v2. There's more operators we should try to get running and facilitate the community to actually be able to install that without a hassle and provide that as a catalog on Operator Hub and so on. And then there's interesting things on the host side again, like Cilium, the eBPF filtering stuff. And yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what makes sense to focus on next, but I think we'll just see that as we go, and we'll survey the community continuously, which is why it's important that you keep coming back here. And yeah, I think that's going to be a way to find for us to find out what to focus on next. Just
For me, the most interesting thing I want to see is that once we have OKD. I want to see us. I think I want us to merge with the Fedora container SIG and actually start driving workflows and patterns and practices and things like that to help bring server software packaged in Fedora as applications and stuff that people can use on an OpenShift system. Because there is a whole world of applications that people maintain as RPMs. And it'd be good to have a good way to bring those high quality stuff with all the cleanups and fixes and improvements, give a good path for those things to be able to run in OpenShift as well. And and enable a true proper ecosystem of supporting containerization of applications and services, and maybe even help people make operators and stuff like that. Because hell, I want to make an operator, for example, of Pagure, but I don't know how to. I don't know how to get started. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I barely have a clue about anything, but I want to be able to do it. So these are the kinds of things that I think we should do next.
That's an excellent idea. Merging with the container SIG makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, it's inactive or has been inactive for a while, kind of at least. And Fedora containers, yeah, and Fedora containers haven't really taken off.
Mostly because the maintenance is hard and the tooling is kind of crappy.
And I mean, we do have all of this in OpenShift, in OKD, in an automated manner. So it just makes sense to sort of set it up for Fedora and go from there.
Yes.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense to me, and I think that's a really great point. Once we go GA, we should really invite the container SIG to join us here and, create some high quality content essentially to run on OKD there.
Yeah, this is the real opportunity to not only help make OKD more broadly useful as a community, but also to help bring Fedora to the next level in terms of this stuff. Like, everyone keeps talking about, well, containers are eating all the things, and do we care about operating systems and whatnot? But there's still this whole groundswell of people who are working to make applications that work, available to people to consume them, and we be providing a way to bridge that gap in a reasonably automated fashion would be good, and it would help. Part of that is I also want to revive the Kubernetes support in Fedora itself. It's in bad shape. We got to shore that up and make it so that it is a first-class citizen as in the Fedora ecosystem, and that will, I think, make it a lot more appealing and a lot more useful to a lot more people.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. All right, cool. I think today's been more of a free flow meeting.
It always, when Diane's not here, we just ramble around and chat.
Yeah, I mean, at least it went better than last time, which was just, I think Charo, Sri, and myself were basically ranting about how our systems weren't working because everything kept breaking every time we tried to set it up.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad about that too.
So at least there's been progress on that front, because I don't think Charo, you've actually had a problem with getting your systems up and running in the last month or so. And I know Sri's cluster has been pretty stable since early March.
Yeah, in fact, in the testing stream of Fedora CoreOS now, they've got a fix for the multiple NICs with fixed IP addresses. I'm getting ready to fire up a cluster build with dual NICs in each of them to put one of the NICs on a storage network with iSCSI provisioned PVs. So that will be interesting, and if I get that up and running, I'm wanting to try out KubeVirt.
That one is interesting to me. I find the idea of making it so that I can declare a definition that includes a group of containers and a virtual machine, because the virtual machine is kind of special, and bringing those together as a single kind of packaged thing. Because I certainly do have applications that, for example, one of them requires loading a custom kernel module and things like that, and you just really can't do that without a virtualization layer. And I'm not really going to inject random kernel modules into the host of OpenShift. That's just not going to happen. Sorry. So being able to bring those two together would be actually a really compelling and interesting story. Kata might work, but I don't actually know anything about how Kata containers work. They've changed quite a bit since clear containers, so And while I did review all the packages to make that runtime work in Fedora, I still have no idea how to use it.
Yeah, and just from an infrastructure management perspective, if if operations folks just learn OpenShift and we can migrate all of those other special ecosystems into that, it's a much reduced workload for them. They're not having to worry about VMware ESX and vMotion and Rev and OpenStack. It becomes OpenShift.
Well, I think that Rev and OpenStack becomes a little harder of a proposition, but I think Rev is still valuable because Rev is the thing that is not designed for you to just spawn machines for no reason at all. They're very much they stick around, they kind of live forever kind of thing. So Rev to me still makes sense. If we're talking about 99% of my workload is containers, and then I have like maybe 1% of it that offers, some that requires some virtual machines to go with it, then OpenStack starts making a bit less sense. But then there's the whole I want to auto scale my OpenShift cluster, and to be quite frank, OpenStack's pretty much the only thing I've seen that does this nice. And don't even talk to me about Airship. Airship just makes my brain hurt. It's just weird. That's Airship is, for those who don't know, that is where you run parts of OpenStack on top of Kubernetes to orchestrate the rest of OpenStack. It's kind of nuts.
Definitely interesting times for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Craig pointed out, Christian, you were sharing your chat screen.
It was okay. It was nice to see that. Oh, apparently even CoreOS has just too many slacks. I mean, at least it's not 15 like mine is. My Slack window, my Slack application has way too many, and it makes me sad whenever I look at it.
Yeah, I had the screen sharing on for too long. I forgot about it.
No, it's okay.
Yeah,
no
nothing
secret.
I think nothing secret leaked here today.
No, no product roadmaps or anything like that. Nothing.
No, just Vadim saying lots of hopes and dreams here.
Oh, and I can't wait till Diane watches this recording.
Oh, she's gonna flip out.
This alone again. Take your meeting back, Christian.
We should do more meetings like this too. This is fun.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah. Usually we just talk about what's not done yet, and I really hope we'll get to a kind of like not just free flow like this, but I really want to survey the community more and find out what you guys want to use OKD for, and getting feedback like we should merge with the container SIG. I think that's an excellent idea, and also the Koji operator. Of course, that should be on Operator Hub to just click and install. So yeah, those kinds of things, and also just what's the new tech you want to see in OKD. So we really should be.
Oh yeah, running Copper as an operator would be cool. Like if people want to have their own Copper, I understand Red Hat's instance of Copper is actually already containerized. So it would be interesting if people who wanted to run their own version of Fedora Copper internally, with all of its fun multi-distro support and the fact that it has a nicer abstraction for projects and packages, running that in their own infrastructure through OpenShift would be really neat. And I obviously, as I said earlier, I want to have Pagure in there because my thought would be, well, Pagure is a really minimal Git server. What if pairing that with things like Tecton and other Kubernetes native CI/CD things, it's not competing with everything, and it'd be just kind of fun to start using that stuff. And I want to use that also in the Fedora community, because if we can do this with a Pagure that can run in OpenShift, we can certainly use it for Pagure.io, store stuff fedoraproject.org, start using Tecton, Community Shift. There's a lot of opportunities there for the kinds of interesting things that can be done. And so I I really want us to get there because, like, I think there's a lot of opportunity here for making this to be, I think, one of the rare times where a Red Hat product turns into a breakout community project. Because that doesn't happen so much anymore, and it makes me very sad.
All right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we've done the hour.
Yes, all
Um,
full of hopes and dreams.
all right. Thank you all for joining in, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.